What's up? Welcome into this Tuesday edition of Pushing the Pile, brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Make every moment more. Fellas, I thought in lieu of recent events, it was appropriate to start this podcast off with a moment of silence for Sam Darnold's bank account.
Oh my God, you are.
Wow.
What a cliffhanger that was.
Oh, I didn't know where you were going.
I was like, there's so many directions. So many
That's
directions.
serious. That's never going to be the case.
Okay. First off, let's do the moment of silence because he lost a mega yacht last night.
The last 2 weeks.
Pete, silence. Okay, I mean, cha-ching, 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 but the opposite of cha-ching, curse splat, curse splat, curse splat.
Yeah.
That was what was happening last night.
It was, and I saw this morning, and I could not believe it. It was 15 days ago that he was getting raised by his teammates, doing like the Hava Nagila in the locker room.
They hit him with the water bottles,
Yeah.
dude. It was a Disney movie 2 weeks ago. And then Jay Glazer reports scoopage on Fox, and he's like, Kevin O'Connell could be the surprise head coach candidate, would be available. Since then, they got routed by the Detroit Lions, routed by the Los Angeles Rams, and Sam Darnold has fallen like that guy Yuri out of the Red Bull blimp towards the earth at terminal velocity. Thank God there are nets. Because Sam Darnold went in free fall last night. And I want to point out something before we continue to skewer, roast, BBQ Sam Darnold. The offensive line, particularly the tackles, did not show up with the same bad intentions that the defensive edge rushers for the Los Angeles Rams did last night. Can we all agree there?
Yeah, terrible.
And from the very onset, we saw plays where both Cam Robinson and O'Neal were getting bull rushed into Sam Darnold's lap and buttocks. And as a quarterback, I can imagine that's not a great, comfortable spot to start the game. But as an offensive tackle, as an offensive lineman, I can tell you this. When the defensive lineman shows dominance with their power rush early, it is like getting a fastball blown by you as a batter in the first pitch of the game, like getting dunked on in the first 20 seconds of an NBA game. And it sets up all of his other rushes to his advantage the rest of the game. It opens the menu. The playbook widens because when you play against a guy like Chris Jones, when you play against a guy like, let's say, Jared Verse on the edge, you have to worry about speed, but you also have to worry about power. They possess both. You set from a technical standpoint to your landmark to stop the power. You have your feet in the ground, and then you react to beat the speed. When they beat you with power early, all you think about is not getting run into your quarterback's lap the whole game. Your feet stand still. You get your edges swiped quicker. You're not as laterally efficient. It is in your head the rest of the game. So I'll preface this convo with saying they got abused last night too. Just like Sam Darnold's bank account, just like the agent's returns on Sam Darnold's future contract, the tackles got bludgeoned.
It's not a good offensive line. It just wasn't. Once Darisaw went down, it was not a good offensive line. Cam Robinson is Cam Robinson. I mean, he shows up and plays. Oh, he was terrible. And he's not good in the run game ever. Never has been. It's a problem. But it also goes back to the old adage. It's the same tried and true adage that have been around since I was a kid watching this game. You are what you are. Mm-hmm. Sam Darnold fooled everybody for a little while, but ultimately you are what you are. It's like the old Nick Foles greatest accident in the history of the NFL. You are what you are. It always works out that way. No matter what, it always works out that way. And that's why, look, 3 weeks ago, I was the one, remember I was saying they should pay him and keep and trade J.J. McCarthy and get assets. Look, I'm not a big believer in J.J. McCarthy either, I'll be honest with you, but I wouldn't do that. I know that right now I wouldn't do that.
You're going back on your proposition.
Well, I mean, they still need assets, so I don't know what they do, but
Sam Darnold, new Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback?
What are you paying him? If you pay Sam Darnold, then you're going to be in the same situation you are with Russell Wilson. It's the same thing. The biggest problem I have with Sam Darnold, okay, he held the ball. We know that. He got a little gun.
Oh, he held the ball.
The look. It was the look. It was this 2 weeks in a row. Same look. I mean, it's almost like the Vikings put that in their quarterback because it's the same Kirk Cousins look in big games.
Yeah.
And I don't want that guy playing quarterback for me in the big moment.
Mike, what did you see?
Yeah, the guy that we talked about, like midseason or whatever, we're like, man, he's confident. Like he hits the back foot and he's ripping it. Doesn't care if there's a window or not. He'll throw into contested situations. He wasn't willing to throw into any contested situations. He was not ready to play in that game. I do have to give credit though to the Rams defense. Watching it back, they had a great game plan for how to deal with Justin Jefferson and how to deal with those wide receivers that are so dynamic. Obviously, it wasn't playing man coverage. So they did a lot of combo coverage. They did a lot of trying to beat up Jefferson at the line of scrimmage and Addison just to like disrupt the time of the offense. So hats off to them. There were plays that maybe looked like terrible Darnold plays where really there were nothing. But there were also ones where there were stuff, and Darnold was still, to use his own words, seeing ghosts.
Well, you remember, you go back to during the season, he went to Jacksonville and he was terrible in that game, remember?
Yep.
They won the game, but he threw 3 picks. He was really bad. And then everybody started wondering again, is he going to be Sam Darnold again? Does he turn into Sam Darnold? And then he went, I think it was Tennessee the next week, and he was okay. He wasn't great. And then he finally snapped out of it and got it going a little bit. And so all of a sudden, everybody's back on, oh, well, he's Sam Darnold again. Those should have been cautionary. Those games should have been red flags that he is who he is. And there's a reason you're a backup in this league. And that's what he is. So where does he go? What happens now with him? Who pays him? And what does he get on the market? And what does he get if Minnesota brings
somebody that liked what they saw during the good times this year and probably said, I can find a way to replicate that. And you know that along with being incredibly talented as a coach, there comes with it a lot of hubris. These guys have a lot of pride in what they do, and they all think that they are the exception to the rule, right? So they're like, I've seen Darnold do this.
Well, if the Giants were willing to pay Daniel Jones over $100 million, I think they might be interested in Sam Darnold as well. That's the one I keep going back to for Sam Darnold, just because of the desperation. They have pick 3, sure. They could draft a quarterback there, but a rookie quarterback is not saving Joe Shane and Brian Daboll's job. And so
I don't think Sam Darnold is either.
I don't think I agree.
Jaden Daniels isn't out there.
But yes, there's no.
I don't think Sam Darnold's saving their job either.
Oh, so, no, I'm not debating. But
okay, so let's take the Jets is off the table because they're not going to bring him back. That's just, they're not doing that. Teams don't do that. So the Giants is a possibility. The Raiders, is Tom Brady running things? Does he want Sam Darnold?
Raiders, I don't
It's
think.
funny because last week we were saying JJ McCarthy for the Raiders.
But now they're not going to trade.
Now we'll take Sam Darnold.
But they're not going to trade him now.
Yeah, understandably so.
Browns.
Huh?
Browns, maybe.
So the Browns are back in the same vicious cycle they're in before.
It's the Browns, though. So.
I don't think his market's going to be robust, to be honest with you.
That's wild. I mean, talk about going from the penthouse to the
I know if he got injured 2
doghouse.
weeks ago, it would have been robust. It would have been, unfortunately.
It was never going to be $50 million.
But it was going to be like all those teams would have been interested.
Right.
He kind of burned a lot of bridges over the last 2 weeks. Rightfully so.
Said Aaron Glenn broke him,
unfortunately.
But that's against two relatively good teams. Now the Lions aren't great on defense, but they had a great scheme against
the Rams. Were bullies last night.
They beat them up.
Both sides of the ball.
Jared Verse, my God. Just watch that guy play. That's how you want it.
Let's talk about Matt Stafford answering the bell here. Coming out there, the leader of that team, unquestioned leader of that team. They got to go on the road. They've got apocalyptic fires burning in Los Angeles. Their team has to go to Arizona to play this game, on short notice. He gets pressured. His first dozen dropbacks. Mm-hmm. They pick it up. He is the guy that hits it on his back foot and gets rid of it. So impressive from Matt Stafford, time and time again. I can't believe I ever doubted this Rams team. I picked the Vikings, and I'm ashamed to say that, but it is what it is. Sam Darnold became Sam Darnold again. Kevin O'Connell got out-coached.
He did.
The Rams just were in a class of their own last night.
Well, and again, I go Sean McVay. I mean, he came out and he said, you know what? I'm going to dictate to them. They're not dictating to me. Right off the bat, boom, shot in the middle of the field. I'm going to dictate to that defense. And we know they blitz on those early downs. I'm going to have the upper hand on them. And he did. We talked about it last week. This is a team that doesn't run very well. But he schemed them open. He got them open, and they did a great job with that.
And then when they did run, they bust an explosive with Kyron Williams because you
come back,
playing with your b-hole this tight on the second level.
Usually that offense is predicated on run and then throw. Well, he did it differently.
Backwards.
He did it the other way.
You know what I didn't realize until I looked this up last night? Chris Shula, so the Rams DC. Obviously, I knew he was Don Shula's grandson. I didn't realize he also played in college with Sean McVay. Yeah. That guy was always going to be. And talk about charmed life. You're Don Shula's grandson and you play with Sean McVay.
You're like jumping from the great boat to another great boat.
He's also Isn't he? He's David Shula's son too. Right? He's his son.
Give us a history lesson on
It's David
Shula.
Shula. He was a head coach back in the day, and not a very good one.
What day?
80s,
okay,
90s.
Me and Mike are excused from that.
Yeah, he wasn't very good. And the other son was a head coach at Alabama, Mike Shula, and he's been in the league for years too.
I think I know that name.
Yeah, but David Shula was also a head coach in the NFL. I mean, so yeah, he has a trouble. But you know what? He's supposedly, and he showed it last night. But talk to people around. He's a really good coach.
It's hard to argue with the results, truly, for the Rams this year and what.
Akello Witherspoon.
Yeah, where'd that come from?
Okay. Right. So there was like 3 weeks ago, he had a game sealing pick in the left side of the end zone by the pylon
against the Cardinals.
Awesome play. And it was his first interception of the year, I think. And I was like, I got to keep an eye on this guy. Obviously, I don't watch the littles as much as I watch the bigs. But then you find this guy, Akello Witherspoon, amongst the bigs last night, going in there for the strip on the touchdown, Jared versus touchdown. Just a playmaker. Guys like that stepping up, it's indicative of a great coach, but more importantly, it's indicative of a great winning culture. This team doesn't blink. They didn't blink last night.
I'm going to give a guy, and I've known him a long time, and I'm going to give this flowers. Les Snead does a hell of a job.
Yes.
We'll get to that in a little bit because that's one of my. We got a new segment debuting today called Rate My Take. That's going to be a part of my take.
Les Snead, I'm just going to say this. I've known Les. Les was a gopher on Tom Coughlin's first scouting staff. And his job, you know what his job was? His number one job was on that team? To go get Andre Rison out of bed for practice.
He got to know players well.
He'd drive over there because, Andre was, he was crazy back then. I love Andre, but he was crazy. But he'd have to go get him up and get him out of bed and bring him to practice. That was his first, as a gopher. That's how he started his career. And Les has really developed into a really good talent.
It's funny. Some of these guys start by washing the GM's car once a week, or picking up the prospective recruits from the airport before the draft. Ryan Pace, the GM that brought me into the Bears, he was the guy that would take the magnets off the draft board at the end of the meetings. He would sit in the corner, wait for it to end, and then he'd empty the magnets so nobody else could see what was going on.
But you got to learn, I respect that because you come through the process, you learn, it's like when I was in the newspaper business back in the day, everybody who got hired, they immediately said, I should be covering the NFL, or I should be covering college football, instead of going to a high school field and covering a high school game, and so you look at it and you go, you got to earn your way into it, and that's why I think Les Snead and guys like that have earned their way.
And that job, waking up a star player to get him to the facility.
Yeah, good luck.
Tell me a guy who understands players better than a guy like Les Snead, who had to go knock on Andre Rison's door and say, hey, get the fuck out of bed, man. That's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, I want to touch on this real quickly. We didn't get to do it because it happened yesterday yet, but Mike McCarthy out as Dallas Cowboys head coach. And rumors are Jerry Jones has spoken to Deion Sanders about the head coaching vacancy.
Make it happen.
He won't pay the
But make it happen.
But if you look at Jerry's history and track record and everything else, he ain't paying $10 million for the buyout. So
Deion's buyout. He won't pay Deion's back. He won't pay Belichick's buyout.
He's going to pay the buyout.
Jonathan
and then
Jones said $10 million is nothing to Jerry Jones.
It isn't, but it's the principle of a guy like that.
Yeah.
It's like that old story. Why do you think he has all that money? I mean, Jerry's not. I can't imagine he's going to
publicity.
Huh?
He likes the free publicity.
Of course.
Pay for it.
If you pay him $10 million and then you're paying him, and he hates paying coaches to not coach too.
Yeah, so that's why McCarthy's contract just run out.
Right. So I can't imagine that happens.
So there's a guy named Joey Molinaro.
Oh, love Joey.
Yeah.
And Joey is fantastic at all the impressions and all that kind of thing. And rarely does he make like tweets just to tweet. It's always like a video. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. He tweeted yesterday so Ari Mayroff said the Cowboys have spoken to Colorado head coach Deion Sanders about their head coach, yada, yada, yada. A potential huge development. And his reply was Jerry's final attempt to make every Cowboys game primetime. Thought that was a good tweet.
That's a good tweet.
And it was like, it doesn't get any simpler than that. Jerry Jones wants to put asses in seats. Jerry Jones wants the Cowboys to be the opening conversation on every Sunday show, on every midweek show with Stephen A. Smith and with me and Pete Prisco. That's what he wants. And what better way to do that than to either get Bill Belichick Or Deion Sanders, and it's opposite ends of the spectrum there in terms of experience as a head coach.
See, I think you're the Cowboys. They're going to talk about you anyways.
But
it doesn't matter if I were the coach of the Cowboys. They're still talking about me, and they're gonna. You get
But
the
it's
right.
Deion.
And if they win, it doesn't matter. Okay, if it's Deion's the coach and they stink, you're going to talk about them ripping them.
That's what I'm saying.
But you're not going to. But if they're great, then you're going to talk about the Cowboys being great. I don't think that's the case with the Cowboys. Some other teams might need that.
Yeah.
Like Jacksonville would need Deion. That would be great for them.
But Deion doesn't need Jacksonville.
No, but that's what I'm saying. But I don't think the Cowboys need Deion either. The Cowboys
I tend to agree.
They need a winning coach.
That would be hilarious.
I'm not saying that. I'm not saying
I would want it. I want Belichick.
I'd pay more attention to the Cowboys if Deion or Belichick was a Cowboys coach.
I would say that it would be more likely that Deion would become the coach of the Cowboys than Belichick, in large part because Belichick is going to want the control and the power, and Jerry ain't giving that up. He's just not.
And Deion just wants to
defense has the talent that if Belichick were there, it could actually be scary. They could actually be, but
when they're healthy, they could be good on defense. Yeah,
they're corners. All right, that's our first off the ball segment. We're going to take a quick break. After that, going to get to power rankings, the playoff teams, and debuting a new segment called Rate My Take. Right after this.
Welcome to JJ's.
I'll have a... Wait, there's no way I can get a burger?
No chance, but you can have the NFL on CBS streams live on Paramount+. Oh, hang on. There's a toy.
He's everywhere.
All right, instead of power ranking the entire NFL, as we usually did during the season on Tuesdays with Pete, we're going to just power rank the remaining.
This is a good respite
teams.
from a 32-team power ranking.
Yeah, a little bit.
It was nice actually watching the game and not worrying about that.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
So we'll start with, we're going to do it by conference, and then we'll do a little conglomerate at the end. Start with the AFC. Pete, what do you got for the AFC?
Chiefs, number one.
Okay.
And by the way, I'm sticking with where I had them, these teams in my
fair
end of
Nothing
season.
Makes sense.
Yeah. So Chiefs number one. They were number one in the power rankings. They are number one. They got to win 2 games. They go to the Super Bowl. Period.
What do they say? And still
two games at home to go to the Super Bowl, and everybody's sitting there trying to figure out ways that they're not going to do it. Look, I picked Buffalo before the season, and I think Buffalo still has a chance. I think Baltimore has a chance. But how do you think about going into that place and beating that guy and that coach? Yeah. So Chiefs are number one.
Okay.
My number one team is the Kansas City Chiefs as well. For all the reasons you just said. That was really well put there, Pete.
I have the Ravens number one. They have been the best offense, the best defense coming in the playoffs. They just are. They're the last second half of the season. They have been insanely good.
Don't you worry about the pass. I know the pass defense has been better, but like you even saw little hints of it last week. Guys getting open, Russell hitting a couple moon balls for big plays. I worry about that a little bit.
But they won't face a receiver as good as George Pickens the rest of the postseason. So.
No, but they'll face a bunch of group.
Or the rest of the AFC postseason.
Units.
Yeah, they'll play group that are better.
So
number two,
who you got, Pete?
I'm going to go Buffalo.
All right. Fair. So Chiefs, Bills.
I mean, I think Chiefs and Bills have been on a collision course all season long, and I'm not backing away from that. I think Buffalo, the last time they played Baltimore, no Milano, no Bernard, no Taron Johnson. I mean, that's your nickel corner and your two linebackers.
Well, will they have Taron Johnson this week?
He was banged up.
Yeah, he's supposed to be back.
Okay.
He'll be back. Those guys are gangsters in Buffalo.
So I think Buffalo is a much better team than they were. And by the way, that was a Sunday nighter on the road, and Henry ran wild. I think it'll be different this time around. I like Buffalo number 2.
Look, I love the Buffalo Bills as much as the next guy. Josh Allen, if I was a kid, I would have his poster on the wall probably. But it's Lamar Jackson. It's Derrick Henry. It's that defense that's found a way to come around, and John Harbaugh and that culture. I think that they're number 2. Bringing Derrick Henry into the fold, we've talked about it ad nauseum. He makes Lamar that much more dangerous. Yes, standing alone, Derrick Henry is as dangerous as they come. But when you add it to the fact that there's now a true mesh point that requires respect and attention from all levels of the defense, it makes that team as dangerous as anybody. And Lamar, he's got a massive chip on his shoulder about this postseason. And, the way that the Kansas City Chiefs went in and beat the Ravens in Baltimore last year, I know it left a bad taste in his mouth. I heard Derek talk in the locker room after week 18 and talking about getting this team refocused to make that final push. And I buy into that. I think Derrick Henry might be the piece that was missing from a Super Bowl run for this Baltimore Ravens team.
Have to agree, because I have number 1. Chiefs, I have a number 2. I don't not going to denigrate the Chiefs. I think they're an awesome team. I think the Ravens are better.
You're not going to denigrate them now.
I have the Bills, then obviously 3. And we all have the Texans last. So
yeah.
For Pete,
although they played well last week.
They play well.
Yeah,
But these guys, these are powerhouses at the top 3.
Yeah. Top 3 of the AFC are they're tough, man. So Pete has the Chiefs, Bills, Ravens, Texans. Kyle has Chiefs, Ravens, Bills, Texans. I have Ravens, Chiefs, Bills, Texans. Let's flip to the NFC. Pete, give yours. Just do the top. Just go through all 4 because you and Kyle ended up with the same list.
Yeah, just give him my list while you give yours.
Lions number 1.
Yep.
Eagles number 2.
Yep.
Rams number 3. Commanders number 4. And I didn't like what I saw from the Eagles last week. I'll be honest with you. And I might have had them because of the defensive concerns about the Lions. But we saw the Lions last time they played. They kind of compensated for those defensive concerns a little bit. And, with what they did to Sam Darnold. And I think the Eagles have some worries on offense to me. The passing game, when it's time to throw the football, can they throw the football consistently?
Elementary.
Right. It worries me. So, plus I don't, the whole reading on the sideline book, okay?
we did this yesterday.
It infuriates me.
Yeah.
I would have gone if I was.
Book went up to number 1 on the Amazon.
You know what I would have done?
List. Did you know that?
Yeah, it's crazy. If I'm Sirianni, I walk over there, take that book, and I take it right from him and tear it up in front of everybody.
But did you see that he had done it a few weeks back against the Bucs?
But did he read it? Did he read it or did he pull it out? Because he said
a show.
He had it on the sideline against the Bucs,
but he didn't open it and sit there like he was reading it. So it wasn't. It's ridiculous. If I'm Sirianni and I'm his head coach, I'm going over there, I'm taking it out of his hands, and I'm ripping it to shreds right in front of everybody. He said, "Read the playbook."
It's akin to those ladies that get up on flights and they do yoga in the middle of the aisle and they're like standing on their head, or the people in the airport that want to get their namaste on a little bit. Look, I understand that. There's rooms for that. Don't do it on the bench. The bench is for communicating with your teammates. And if you have frustrations, if you got 3 targets and 1 catch, find a way to communicate with your quarterback.
Do you know that there actually are rooms? This will lead me to something, by the way. No, I'm going to tell you something because I could not.
New segment, Pete Prisco's rooms.
No, rooms. I'm going to tell you this because I could not believe this.
Yeah, there's sensory deprivation.
There you go.
Rooms. Yeah, sensory.
This is at the Falcon Stadium when I'm getting ready to go to the game. I'm sitting there and my wife goes,
"Well, now there are people who have some neurological differences that struggle and as it pertains to sensory stuff.
Please enjoy
lights.
this sensory room. This room provides a safe and calming environment for our guests that might be feeling overwhelmed and overstimulated.
That's what I'm saying.
Did you get in there and just start screaming?
You're such an asshole. Banging on the door. They're coming.
I mean, I'm like, what? If you would have said that to somebody 30 years ago, they would have looked at you like, what are you talking about?
So at the airport, I understand this because everybody has to travel. Not everybody has to go to an NFL game. And when you go to an NFL game, you should understand what to expect. Even assholes that bring very young children put headphones on them sometimes in the stands.
So what is it? What is that room? What is it? I didn't open the door because I didn't want.
I thought it's a soundproof room. Man.
And so what? You just sitting there for a while and goes in.
Yeah, it's a cool off It's a cool off section. Sometimes when I get hit too much by my kid, and I'm just like, Daddy has to go to the bathroom for a second. And I shut the door, cry.
To read AJ Brown's explanation, he said, "This game is 90% mental and 10% physical for me. I bring it to every game and I read it between each drive. I use it to refocus and lock in despite what may transpire in the game, good or bad. People tend to create controversy when they don't know."
That's the greatest bunch of BS I've ever heard in my entire life. That's just a guy who caught one pass and he's over there showing his ass. That's all that is. I don't buy that one bit. I'm sorry. And by the way, if I had, just for example, if I had taken a book out in my high school team and sat on the bench and just decided to read it,
you would have got called every name under the sun.
You would have come over and slapped the living daylights out of me. Are you kidding me? I just, anything relate to that? Your NFL experience? Anything?
There are red flag behaviors on the sideline that I've seen. None of them. I've never in my life seen a guy just pull out a piece of literature and start reading on the sideline.
You've seen
I would walk
hot
over
dogs
there and say,
stuff.
"Look, enough people have seen you reading this thing. You can put it away now and focus up."
But you've seen guys eating hot dogs and stuff on the side.
I'd rather Mark Sanchez eat a hot dog than this guy.
Me too. This reeks of look at me, look at me.
That's what I said.
He's a wide receiver though. They all do. Not they all. Most of them.
Jamar Chase doesn't read a fucking sentence.
Right.
He just goes out there and plays football. Okay.
Right.
Don't tell. Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't do a lick of reading during the football game. But not only that,
have we gotten to the point where we're almost, these coaches have gotten too soft in the way that, like, you heard Mike McDaniel talking about, well, I fined them and they still were late. Well, that's on you, bud. That's a reflection of you. This is a reflection of Sirianni. Go over there and tell them, look, put the book away. You read the book at halftime if you
Big
want
Dom,
to.
Send Big Dom over there to burn the books. Dom.
You know who else burned books? No. All right. Eagles, though.
Okay. Next.
Their defense. I have them number one. I have the Eagles number one. Their defense is unbelievable right now. And unfortunately, no Nakobe Dean. That was a big injury to the patellar tendon. Not a great injury to have, unfortunately.
That's all awesome. Stability, forward and backward stability.
Yeah. I mean,
there's a bad history. There's a bad history of patella tendon injuries in Philadelphia, by the way. Not on that field, but one time years ago, wide receiver by the name of Wendell Davis for the Chicago Bears actually tore both of them in the same game.
Same play?
Yeah.
Oh, my
He hit a dead spot.
In that turf.
Terrible. But the Eagles defense right now it's just something to behold. I mean, the talent on that roster is unlike.
Well, Nolan Smith has grown up a little bit.
Nolan Smith, that's the big thing. He's playing like a man. I mean, the hit he had on Elton Jenkins that took him out of that game was
grown man
stuff. I mean, that was like why you play the game right there. And he's been playing possessed the last
but not having Dean will be big for their coverage too, because
he can actually move.
Their physicality shines through on both sides of the ball. In 2018, I practiced against the best defense in the National Football League week in, week out. Chicago Bears with Khalil Mack, Akeem Hicks, Danny Trevathan, Roquan Smith, Eddie Jackson, and I'm talking about these guys at the height of their career. When we got to the wild card, we played against the Eagles, and granted, they weren't as talented as the defense we played against every day. They were the toughest, meanest, most physical group of people I had ever played against in my life. And I could see it in the game that the Eagles just played, that the Packers were not ready to match that physicality. Yeah. And, scheme aside, all that stuff aside, at the end of the day, it's still a game of imposing your will on players. And when I saw Lane Johnson, I think it was Quay Walker, he took him and just drove him into the dirt on a first down. And Quay Walker's limping to the sideline. There's a different guy walking up the tunnel every 30 seconds for the Green Bay Packers. It's not like, oh, this is just the end of the year. That's what happens. No, they ran into a buzzsaw on both sides of the ball physically. That defensive front plays with the same intentions that offensive line plays with. And it's no secret. It's no surprise. They probably practice that way. And I just think it's something to keep an eye on. They are a physical group.
But I think when Jenkins went down, it changed the way they changed the whole way the Packers were going to play that game.
Well, they had 3 holding penalties.
Right. And those guys didn't really know what they were doing and what level to get to and everything else. They
missed.
Unacceptable.
Yeah. I mean, they missed Jordan Morgan. They didn't mention on the broadcast, which blew my mind, but their first round pick was supposed to be like your insurance plan, and he had a broken hand. He's out for the season. So I have Lions too, but then I have Commanders over the Rams. I think that's an interesting conversation to me because Jane Daniels, I'm just not betting against him right now. I'd take him over Stafford right now. I know Stafford came out dealing, but Daniels.
I might push back on that.
Daniels
with his legs in that offense. I don't know, man.
But experience matters. It does. It matters a great deal. And he handled it the other day, but now you got to go do it again. And that Stafford's been through it.
Let's call it equal.
Yeah.
Who would you rather have, McVay or Cliff?
McVay, obviously. But then I think, say, flip to the defensive side of the football.
Quinn or
I think Commanders defense right now.
Shula.
Rams defense. I don't know. I just think it's close.
That one's close. That one's tough for me.
That Washington Commanders offensive line got bullied a little bit, and they got outskilled. They got outflanked a couple times.
They did.
Against the Rams front, that might be tough sledding too.
Well, yeah, they won't be playing until the championship game, but that would be an interesting championship game if that did happen.
Oh my God.
And that would be, it would see that one coming.
It would be in LA, right? Yeah.
Well, Arizona. We'll see. Yeah, right. If they can host it by then. All right. New segment, Rate My Take, where we all come to the table with something and we give it a rating. We'll do it what scale do we want to give? Do we want to give like a 1 through 10? Do we want to give 1 through 100? Do we want
Why don't you do it?
Why don't you do gladiator? Thumbs down, thumbs mid.
Okay, we'll do the gladiator.
And then if you really like it, two thumbs up.
Okay.
Like Roger Ebert. All right, go ahead. Pete, kick us off.
If the Kansas City Chiefs win their 3rd consecutive Super Bowl, and what would it be?
4 overall.
4 overall in 6 years.
Yeah.
In 6 years. Patrick Mahomes will be the GOAT.
What if it's Carson Wentz that leads them like a inverse Nick Foles situation?
Ooh.
Then he's not the GOAT.
Okay. Just making sure, because you said the Kansas City Chiefs, not Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes.
Now, that was tough because Brady is just at this point has everything, right? Has the longevity, has the rings, would still have the ring advantage.
But he didn't do this.
But he wouldn't do 3 straight. No one's done.
And he wouldn't do this in this time frame, in this part of his career. Mahomes is so young, and 3 in a row is, one of the great achievements in the NFL history that nobody ever talks about because they were losers was the Buffalo Bills going to 4 straight.
Oh.
And I used to sit here and say, I don't think that will ever happen again, win or lose. Mm-hmm. Well, it might.
Yeah.
And if it happens, if they win this one, and it might happen again, they might win it again next year. That's how special this team is.
And they're going to draft well. And they're not going to be as injured next year as they were this year.
That's how special this quarterback is. That's why he would be considered the GOAT.
I'm not going to go 2 thumbs up, but I will go 1 thumb up on the take-o-meter here for Rate My Take. Pete says Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs win 3 straight, he becomes the GOAT. And I have no disagreement there. I'm not going to sit here and pound the table for it because we know what Tom Brady's been there and done. But the fact that this is uncharted territory in the National Football League, you have to give a thumbs up to Patrick.
Thumb lateral. Brady won 3 in 4 years.
But that's not a no.
Yeah. It's thumb lateral. I think he's like
what years did Brady win those three?
What was it? 01 through 05?
Right. And he was like an appendage on those teams.
He was. That's a good way to put it.
I mean, think about the first 2 teams. There was debate whether he should start on the one team because Bledsoe was ready to come back. Remember, that was a whole big deal at the Super Bowl. Should Bledsoe come back in? Should Brady start? And then the next one, then he let him on the drive to win it. Then the next one, he didn't put up great numbers on that team.
Oh, yeah.
Then the one that he did win, the 4th one he did. So it's different. It's different.
Patrick has carried this team in everything.
Yes.
The whole way through. Mine is Bill Belichick will coach at UNC for 1 year. He is going to coach there this year, but then he's going to return to the NFL and go after that record. And I think there's a few landing spots. If Zach Taylor with a new DC struggles next year, I could see him becoming the Bengals coach. I could also see him, if we see a one and done situation in Dallas, being the Dallas coach. I know I talked about him becoming the Cowboys head coach. I think that would be pretty sweet. If Tomlin ever leaves the Steelers, I could see him having an opportunity to go there potentially. But yeah, Bill Belichick back in the NFL after 1 year.
I think 1 thumb up. I think it's no more than 1 year, I'll say. I think if that's the take, then I agree because I think he could just jump right now. I think there's a chance that
he wouldn't do that. I don't think.
I think there is.
That he's already out on the recruiting trail. That would be the most callous thing in the world.
That's what I'm saying.
But so I'll give it a thumbs up.
But then again,
don't see him staying there.
He walked out on the Jets. Remember?
Yeah, he did. He's done it before.
Yeah, it's not like he hasn't done it before.
But he was a young man.
Yeah, but he took the job and then backed out of it. So
it's honestly more that he's an old man right now. That should be the time. The time frame for him is like, hey, let's get it going. Buddy.
I think he's enjoying this, to be honest with you.
You think he likes going into living rooms?
I think he's enjoying getting. I mean, look, it's different for him. It's not the same.
Something new.
Yeah,
which is hard to think about.
Yeah, I don't think he's coming back to the NFL.
Oh, okay.
I don't. So I'm going to give you a thumbs down.
What if Andy Reid wins 3 in a row and decides to walk away?
I don't think.
Could he become the head coach of the Kansas City Chiefs?
No, I don't think Andy Reid's walking away.
That would be sick.
I think Andy Reid's chasing the record.
If Belichick coached Mahomes,
if you're a Chiefs fan,
imagine coaching Brady and Mahomes.
You know, I think Andy Reid's chasing the record.
Yeah,
we keep talking about Belichick chasing the record. Andy Reid has a legitimate shot to get the record. If he coaches for 4 more years or 3.5 more years, he's going to get the record. He's going to be the winningest coach of all time. If he gets, let me ask this: if he wins this one, and he becomes the winningest coach of all time, is he the greatest coach of all time? I say yes.
Yes.
I say yes. Let's not forget what he did with the Eagles.
2 different franchises. Yeah. How many?
And he got better.
He went to one Super Bowl, and I think he went to four.
It wasn't like he was the same
games.
coach, because he wasn't without his struggles in Philadelphia.
No, they used to criticize
management.
They criticize for running the ball, not running the ball.
Andy has gotten better, and he was a great coach.
Andy Reid, if Andy Reid takes down Shula's record and wins another Super Bowl, he's the greatest coach of all time.
I'll go 2 thumbs up for that.
Yeah.
That was a good take there.
All right, my take. The Rams team building model, this was the less needed thing from earlier, will become the next trend in the NFL. And to give some what I think the Rams team building model is, basically they load up on day 3 picks. They use all their early picks on line of scrimmage. Last 3 drafts, their top 100 picks, 5 out of 7 have been line of scrimmage players. And that's all they're the only ones that weren't line of scrimmage players are the ones way at the back end of the top 100 over that span. And the day 3 picks, they don't covet guys who necessarily tick the traditional boxes that you see in scouting on the defense side of the ball. The traits guys, the guys with length, they draft guys on day 3 who produced at linebacker,
Football
DB,
players.
guys who were making plays on footballs, guys who know the game on that side of the ball. And then they just do not even play man coverage. They play all zone combo coverage to not leave the guys who are maybe these athletically limited guys on an island, but they still, if they all play in unison and all know their jobs inside and out and all have high football IQ, well, they still make it pretty difficult on opposing offenses. And then they spend all their money in free agency along the line of scrimmage, whether it's offensive line specifically is where they've done it. They have the highest paid offensive line in the NFL. That, I think, is the team building model, is get back 7 guys on day 3 who know how to play football, as opposed to coveting these traits guys where you can find stars on day 3 at linebacker, cornerback, safety. Can't find a lot of stars on day 3 at edge rusher, defensive line, offensive tackle. So I think that's the team building model.
Let's not forget they also went for it and won it, and they were forced into this team building model.
But I think you'll see more teams start to have this sort of, and it's a good draft to do it because it's a lot of defensive linemen this year's draft, but start to not necessarily just say, oh, we have a need at corner, let me go draft corner in the first round. Be smarter about the positions they're targeting in the draft.
I've always been a big believer in you get as many big people as you possibly can, and keep getting them. And it's like if you don't have a quarterback, you keep getting one. You keep trying to get one, and sometimes it's if you have one, you get one in the 7th round just to take a chance on them, because those are the positions you have to have in this league. Everything else you could figure. You could find a late round run and chase linebacker. They're out there. You can find a run and look at the safeties. You can find look at Blankenship. I mean, you can find safeties, but the premium guys, the edge guys, the tackles, the big people, the guy who can be a disruptor on the interior of the defensive line, you got to get those guys. And if you don't have one, draft 3 of them. Mm-hmm. Find one in the 1st round, find one in the 2nd round, in the 5th round. Because I think that's where the game is right now. So I'm with you. You could supplement those back end positions and get away with it. Yeah. Their corners aren't very good. Let's be real. Mm-hmm. I mean, Darius Williams and Witherspoon and Durant, they're just guys, but they make it work. Yeah. I mean, even those safeties, when you really break down the safety position, it ain't great back there either. Now, Lake's a good player because he can do a lot of different things. He's got versatility. He was but he ain't like his dad. I mean, his dad was really good. So I'm with you to that degree, but I don't know if you necessarily can do that all the time. I think they were forced to do it.
So the Rams, and I love this, by the way, and it got me down the Google rabbit hole here. So 2023, they traded the 6th pick to the Lions. 2022, traded the 32nd pick to the Lions. 21, traded the 25th pick. 20, traded the 20th pick. 2019, traded the 31st pick. They trade out of these to load up players on these day 3
players. Well, no, they trade those for players that are proven. Is the other aspect. They trade for proven players. And then they use those day 2 picks and just keep going down.
And then
so
what
day 2, there's
they were
we'll
drafting,
go down, and then have
he's
10
been
guys
there 15 years, 14 years, something like that in LA, with the Rams. So he was part of the move to LA. And when I was first coming into the league, I was watching my older brother play for St. Louis. And St. Louis, what did they put all their money into in the draft, or their draft capital was towards defensive linemen. It was Brockers, it was Chris, it was Robert Quinn, Aaron Donald. I mean, like you're talking about big guys that you can't really get that level of player day 3 or past. You have to load up on those guys now and find a way to get a scheme that fits the talent pool that you're going to be able to acquire. I love that.
You said their offensive line has money in it. The center is a late round pick, cheap. Right. The left tackle is an unrestricted free agent, so they don't have any money in him. Havenstein they paid.
Yeah.
Noteboom they paid. They paid Jonah Jackson free agency, which was a dud.
Right. But Avia is playing now. I mean, he's cheap.
It helps to have Matt Stafford.
And that's
well. It also helps if you draft a center and he won the job. I mean he took the job. Remember, the plan was to have Avia play center, Jonah Jackson. It didn't work out because of injuries. And then when he came back, they said no, we're going to keep him in there at center. So drafting having guys developmental offensive linemen, having them around. If you look at every team, Morgan would have been the guy that went in for the Packers. So they thought maybe he would start. He wasn't going to start. Well, you'd have him sitting there. You have to draft and develop those guys. I give you that. You have to. You can't go out and
start we called it an O-line farm.
Right.
Yes. That's the way you got to have a farm of guys, and whether you use them or you deal them, because they're going to be highly coveted players. If somebody needs an offensive lineman, they're willing to give up whatever at the like deadline or in free agency. And you have these guys on your roster, you can cash in big time.
Like if I'm drafting, at the back end, if I have a couple picks in the later rounds, I'm going to take a college tackle that I know doesn't have the feet to play tackle in the NFL, and I'm going to make him a guard. And I'm going to just go in, and if he doesn't work out, then he doesn't work out. But he's going to be a big guy, physical guy. Guy can move a little bit, but he doesn't have the feet to hold up at right or left tackle. He's going to go play guard for me. Or try to, and we've seen that over the years. The best guards have all transitioned. Most of them all transitioned.
He's insinuating that guard is easier than.
No, that's
tackle.
not what I'm saying.
Well, he's saying you played tackle in college.
I played a little bit of both.
Yeah. And I'm trying to think of Quentin Nelson's probably the most high profile guy who just never was a tackle.
Yeah.
In college,
but
Zach Martin
was a tackle. I mean, Marshall Yanda, who's one of the up for the Hall
year, he was tackle.
He was a tackle,
and he moved to tackle at certain points at the end of his career.
Yeah, but it's okay if you can do it.
Tooney was tackle,
but Yanda would have been a really good tackle. He was a great guard.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. I think that in those guys, that's what I would.
There is a mentality difference in guard and tackle.
There is.
The one weird one, though.
It's right on top of you right there, too.
Yeah. Braden Smith for the Colts was a college guard who never played tackle.
Right.
And then ended up being an NFL tackle.
Yeah.
You never see it. No. I can't think of a single other example.
No. But Becton's moved into guard and done a nice job.
Yeah.
And he wasn't a good tackle.
All right, we're going to take a quick break. After that, going to get to our debate segment. After this.
We're already debating.
Yeah, right.
Guy. Sorry, we're talking about, some of the things we were just talking about. And this guy, Josh Woods.
I don't remember that name.
He plays still. He's in Atlanta. He's like a special teams guy and a depth linebacker, but he could run like the wind and could hit. And people probably didn't overdraft him because of the fact that he was so slender, and so many people want guys to look a certain part. But at the end of the day, you put a helmet on these guys, if they can go run and tackle, sign me up.
I mean, you're seeing it with the Jets, Jamin Sherwood this year.
Sign me up.
Well, here's the other one is and Derek Brooks will be the first one to tell you this. When he came out, a lot of teams said, you're going to go play safety. And he said, no, I'm not. And he said, yeah, you're going to be a safety because that's where the game was back then. And now, then it kind of morphed into all those run and chase linebackers were 220, 225, and you had to cover and had to run. And he ended up becoming one of the best ones ever.
Dude, I remember trying to get a good angle on Shazier when he was still out there running around. And it was like, Coach, either you're doing something wrong or this guy's on PEDs because we can't get there. No matter what the mic call we have up.
All right, first topic. Is Jordan Love too inconsistent to be a top 10 quarterback in the NFL?
I'm not ready to say yes because his health is so inconsistent. At
Correct.
This point. And it's, as a guy who dealt with injuries, I would hope that you didn't judge my performance, without looking at the injury scale. And this guy's dealt with everything, lower body, upper body, throwing hand, throwing elbow. So I would say no, there's still time for Jordan Love to be considered a consistent top 10 NFL quarterback. Is he there right now? No. We've seen it last year against the Cowboys. People fell in love again with Jordan Love. But I'm going to pump the brakes on saying yes, but there's a caveat here. He has dealt with a ton of injuries.
But he was also really good against the Niners too last year in that game too, for most of it.
Okay.
And so I think it's still there. I'm a believer in Jordan Love. I wasn't before when he came out, but I am now. And I just think the injury showed up, and not just with him, across the board. And guys, do they ever have the group together at receiver?
No,
and
that's the thing.
Ever. Never. I mean, whether it's
get
one
Jordan
tight end
Nelson
down or not, you know what I mean? They're never together. He didn't look right all year. I'm still a believer. He's got to be less cavalier with the football. I mean, I always say that about Cam Ward. He's got a little cavalier with the football. I think Jordan Love has to be less cavalier.
I do think he's a little too inaccurate to ever get to like the top tier of guys. I think he's never going to be Mahomes, Lamar, Allen, Burrow, Jaden, Herbert. I think those guys are like
Herbert. But I mean, I'm with you on Herbert, by the way. But right now it's open season on Justin Herbert.
It is open season, but I still think those 6. I just never see him cracking those guys. But he could be the next guy if given he's healthy, given that the situation around him is better. But I do just think the inaccuracy aspect of his game, he's just not a pinpoint guy.
By the way,
so he's probably always going to be fringe top 10.
If we've learned anything in the last couple of weeks, it's that there's 4 elite quarterbacks, and that's it.
Yeah.
4. There's 4 of them: Lamar, Mahomes, Allen, and Burrow. And then and I'm a Justin Herbert guy more than most people. I'm with you, Mike.
Yeah.
But there's a drop down after.
I also agree with that. I think Jaden could get into that mix.
Yeah.
Could.
But I agree that those 4,
which is scary to
play
even
different.
say.
Some of us thought he was the best quarterback in the draft last year.
Go ahead, Pete. Have at it. Take your lap.
What about
Woo, Pete, victory lap. Woo!
Hey, you know why? I get the Will Levis going the other way.
Will Levis is circling the toilet bowl.
I think Will Levis goes to the Rams and spends a year or 2 as a backup. He will end up being a good quarterback in that system.
There you go. You're hanging on to the life raft.
Yeah,
I like
so
that.
I actually am not. I don't think it's over for Will Levis.
I don't
His
either.
pocket presence is an abject disaster, but he has some. Is actually one of his biggest. His accuracy has improved a lot, even since Kentucky. So I think there's hope.
I think his guys like him too.
Huh?
Yeah, because he's going to work his ass off.
I think the guys like him.
Yeah.
Which is important.
And
by the
you
way.
saw Rand Carthen did an interview the other day and was asked about it. And he said, look, I still think it's 4 offenses in 4 years for the kid.
Yeah.
It's tough to do.
I had 5 coordinators in 5 years. 3
You're
head coaches.
You're an
They also
offensive
block
line
the guy.
slug.
I don't care. We still got to be the smartest guys on the field.
I know.
Okay.
Believe me.
People say quarterback's the hardest. I don't think so. I think it's
still a
still
sluggo.
because you got to be smart while you're getting the shit kicked out of you every play. That's tough.
It is. I would not know. I've never.
Take my word for it, bro.
I will. All right. Next one. Do the Steelers need to consider moving on from Mike Tomlin? If so, who do they go for?
Yeah, they should. And it's got to be it's not you, it's me situation with Pittsburgh. If you're going to be voicing that opinion to
You've
Mike
had
Tomlin.
that told to you before.
Well, yeah, it's definitely not you. It's me.
Oh, well.
That's my line.
Oh, well. See ya.
So Tomlin, great coach, going to be a Hall of Famer. But they just haven't been able to get over the hump there. And the situation hasn't been right recently. The quarterback roster situation has been
Boom balls.
a disaster. You get Justin Fields, you get Russell Wilson, you got, what does Madden say? You got 2 quarterbacks, you got no quarterbacks. Stars on their defense not showing up in the last month of the season.
Oh, you calling out TJ Watt?
No, I'm just saying stars on the defense. That's
TJ
what I'm
Watt.
saying.
How many stars they got besides Cam Hayward?
They got a
And
couple
Cam Hayward.
out
I guess Minka Fitzpatrick.
And
They got a
no,
couple.
he's not a star.
Minka Fitzpatrick
for that conversation.
He's not a
watched
star.
Minka
He's not a star.
Fitzpatrick get planted like a daffodil.
He's not a star. He had a
the
bad
other day.
year. He had a bad year. He should be in the Pro Bowl.
So Mike Tomlin with a fresh start, I think would be good for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and it would be good for Mike Tomlin.
If he wants to go, that's fine. I wouldn't get rid of him.
Dallas?
I think these teams have overachieved. Every one of them. That's why he's getting whacked in the playoffs. His teams aren't very good. So is he to blame for that? No.
Well, who's making all the decisions there?
Well, they hired a general manager from the Eagles who's making football decisions along with Omar Khan. Was Andy Weidel? Is that his name? Yeah. And so those guys are making the football decisions.
They can all take a vacation, a long one. Take them to the train station.
Here's the problem. If you don't have a quarterback, which they don't, and there's much to blame because they drafted Pickett and it didn't work out, then you have problems. You're not going to compensate for that. I don't care. And they don't run the ball very well. They start a bunch of
rookies. Their
rookies.
O-line was insanely banged up, though.
Right, and the rookies on that line, too. And they're going to be better. But
Frazier, we like him.
Frazier's great. They had
Frazier
got injured.
He got injured, and
McCormick got hurt.
McCormick had to play early in his career. They'll be fine on the offensive
My
line.
issues with the Steelers are this. You know what you are. You're a team that goes moonballs to George Pickens. If you're a coach that runs to coaching and not away from coaching, if you're a coach who's lauded for culture, if you're a coach for having secret handshakes with all your guys, then you should have some sort of secret messaging to get George to lock in, because there's way too many weeks where I just go
for the playoffs.
There's way too many weeks where I'm like, what is this guy's problem? Because if he doesn't understand that as he goes, they go, that's a coaching issue.
What about Antonio Brown? He had him. It was the same thing.
Antonio Brown was locked in week in, week out.
But he also had issues with him. And there were issues in the locker room. There were a bunch of issues.
In the locker room. But on the field, that guy 84 was a nightmare for everybody, and more so the opposition.
Yeah. But again, diva wide receivers, it
was almost like a different generation of diva wide receiver. Back then, you were a problem, but you
went off.
Business. Yeah, you handled your business. Now it's like you're a problem, and then you go like aloof and you go sit in the corner.
Yeah, it's like
just
emo.
like a different generation. Yeah,
he needs to read a book.
But I think Tomlin should be the coach. But I think you know what, they got to fix the quarterback position. The problem is, how do you fix it?
You got to get out of there. It's not you, it's me.
I think I don't think it's gonna. I don't think he's going to get them over the hump. Right? Like I don't think Tomlin right now, over the next 2 years, I don't foresee them all of a sudden it turning into they're competing with the Chiefs, competing with, the top of the AFC. So from that perspective, will another coach get you there? I don't know. But you're also not going to bottom out with Mike Tomlin. I think he's overachieved with these rosters. They just haven't been good enough. And I think the bigger thing is the talent there right now.
I picked him to finish last, and remember I picked him to finish last, and all the abuse we took from Steelers fans. He was collateral damage
because Pete would block them, and they would at me. They would start writing me messages to send to Pete.
Yeah. And now where are they?
Here we go on vacation. Here we go.
His identification of assistant coaches has been objectively awful.
Arthur Smith,
whether it's
Malarkey,
Matt Canada.
Was it Mike Malarkey?
Matt Canada.
Malarkey?
Yeah.
We roasted Matt Canada so hard.
Todd Haley.
You got to go back to Bruce Arians.
I would say when they had Bruce Arians, Dick LeBeau, they were
right.
They were at the bleeding edge of what was hot in the NFL.
I used to hate playing against Dick LeBeau's
schematically at the forefront. They are, if you're just talking about offensively, defensively, what they do compared to the rest of the NFL, they're like bottom 10 in both in terms of just like creativity.
I'm with you.
You're not gonna get over the hump with that. So
and he's fiercely loyal to.
So if you stand pat to your OCDC right now with what we just saw this last year, it's like it's not going to change. Unfortunately, you might go 10-7 again. But you're not competing with top dogs in the AFC.
If they had Roethlisberger walk through the door, it'd be okay. Prime Roethlisberger walk through the door.
He was so good, underappreciated.
To play cool.
He's as big as me too.
Yeah, he's enormous.
That guy was
out there like 4 beers deep, throwing touchdowns.
It's awesome.
All right, are the Texans back to competing like they did to close out last season, or was it a fluke? Last week,
I think it was a little bit of
Chargers were on
bad.
down.
The Chargers chargered. Look, I can go back to history of my charging. I was a Dan Fouts guy. I love the air.
They always charge her?
They found a way to charge her. No, granted,
same city, same team.
They went to they got
it's not quite like Miami, but
got the unfortunate
to that.
Yeah, they got the unfortunate thing of one year they were the best team. I thought they went to Miami, beat them in that double overtime game. Or that overtime game with Kellen Winslow going nuts. And then they had to go to Cincinnati and play the Bengals. And it was like 40 below. I mean, and they couldn't throw it around in those situations. So
Was that Boomer days?
No, that was before Boomer.
Okay.
But this was like one of those games where, they would win if it was in a good weather conditions, and they didn't. So they always have charging moment. Rivers hurting his knee. I mean, there's always something. And that they Chargered the other day. You think with Harbaugh being there, they could kick that to the curb. It never goes. They Charger. They're the Chargers. They keep charging. And go back. Remember they played in the Super Bowl against the 49ers, and they put a 55 on them or 50 on them or whatever it was. When Steve Young lit them up down here, that team overachieved, but they still found a way.
That was right before my fandom. I think.
Yeah, they found a way. They went to Pittsburgh and won in the playoffs, and won the Super Bowl, and went to the Super Bowl, and then they got blown out in the Super Bowl. But that was more of the Chargers charging. Because think about it, first off, why were they going for it when they could have gone up 10-0 on the road? They should have been up 14-0 early.
Yeah.
But then he went for it on fourth down was dumb. That was really dumb. You go ahead. I mean, what was the time when did he do that? It was 3-0.
Those edge rushers are for real. And if Kansas City doesn't have a rock solid game plan, I'm not quite as worried on the left side of that line with Joe Thuney, but that right tackle spot could become an issue because
how do they play that?
They've got a backup left guard in there playing for where Thuney was playing. It's Caliendo.
Yeah, but how do they play? Because Humphreys played last week.
Yeah.
Do you keep Thuney at left tackle?
You keep it the same.
I would keep it the same.
You keep it the same because what it does is it gives Patrick the opportunity to see what's in front of him and know for a fact that these edge rushers are going to be run by. They're going to be set inside out, and he's going to have a spot to step up in the pocket, sometimes sprint up in the pocket. He becomes as dangerous as anybody when running towards the line of scrimmage because he can scamper out there. He's just fast enough. But when he runs up, it gets eyes, and they do as good a job as anybody on the scramble drill on the second level of that offense.
That's the other thing. The Derwin James interception, I mean, if that happens, how's that game play? I mean, look, the Texans were better. I still don't think they were good.
I agree. And it's honestly for the opposite reason. Last year, we're talking about their offense. This year, we're talking about their defense. But their offense is still not bad. Like Stroud threw one pick, could very easily thrown two more in that game, was not sharp whatsoever.
And Herbert threw 4 and could easily have thrown 2.
Yes. So could have been a vastly different game had those bounces gone the other way. All right. Final one here, and we'll get out. Which one seed has the easier first playoff game, to go back to kind of what we just talked about, the Texans versus the Chiefs, or the Lions against the Commanders?
The Texans
easier
do.
Draw.
I mean, the Chiefs do.
I 100% agree.
But you know what?
Because every close, low-scoring game, the Chiefs win. So if it turns to a close, low-scoring game.
But remember, they played about, a month ago or 3 weeks ago, and it was a relatively close game, but that was before Tank Dell went out.
You're telling me that the Texans have an easier game than the Commanders?
No, the Chiefs have an easier game than the Lions.
Okay.
Yeah. The Lions have, in my opinion, for what
you don't play attention to the Lions reading your book on the sideline.
I think that the Lions have a tougher.
Yes.
Yeah,
sorry. Lions have an easy. So no. The Lions are going to be at home against a rookie quarterback. I just am hard pressed to find a group offensively that can go out there and match production with the Detroit Lions, particularly at home. That place is an insane asylum. And you add to the fact that their team is really good, that place is going to be so hard to play. Jaden Daniels is as good as anybody, but I think the road stops here for the Commanders.
Well, no, I think it'll stop, but I think you'd rather
the Chiefs have had a month off.
You'd rather play the Texans than the Commanders.
I don't know about that.
What do you say?
I'd rather play the Texans right now.
Yeah,
I don't know about that.
You pay attention to the assignment.
I did. I think the Lions are good. I think the Lions can blow. I think the Lions might blow out the Commanders in Detroit.
I think on that track, Jane Daniels is going to look like.
That's what
you guys haven't been watching. The Chiefs are going to have a 1-possession win. They're going to win at home. It's going to be one possession, maybe 10 points. But the Lions are going to rout.
The Commanders have no chance.
No chance.
I disagree with you.
No chance.
I disagree. You're basing that on what they did to Sam Darnold.
I'm basing that on what Detroit's offense has done to everybody this year.
Yeah, they've scored, but I think the Commanders will score too.
It is going to be
a
track meet, and it's the Detroit Lions are the Jamaicans, and they're going to win. I just watched a Netflix special on track queens in Jamaica.
Well, is it going to be a
By
sprint
the way,
or is it going to be long distance?
Oh, it's going to be a
big-
sprint. It's going to be long distance, and the
difference.
Lions sprint the entire time. That's the way they operate. I called it a drone show.
the
You know, the
400.
way that they're just. Check out Track Queens on Netflix if you haven't before.
Yeah.
Sprint Queens, I think it is.
About the Jamaican Olympic
It's about the Jamaican women that run. It's like an entire culture based around these gals being faster than everybody. It's badass. That's the Detroit Lions offense.
Okay.
They just are pedal to the metal the whole game.
Well, there is Usain Bolt on the other team.
Jaden Daniels, he's too skinny. He's skinnier than Usain Bolt.
I don't know if he is.
Bro, he was bleeding from the face.
They're like the
He
same
did a
build.
He did a John Elway helicopter on the sideline when he got hit. He went to go get his foot down, but he was so high in the air that his foot missed. He did another front flip.
What about the kid though on the bench when the field goal's going through?
What's that? Oh,
Did you see him?
he's an assassin.
Oh, okay. On to the
Usain
next
Bolt's
one.
6'5", 207. They're the same person.
He's an assassin, Jaden
He
Daniels.
really is.
This has nothing to do with Jaden Daniels and everything to do with Ben Johnson and the Detroit Lions offense. That's what I'm
It's not like the
saying.
Commanders' defense is god awful though.
No.
It does not matter. Bobby Wagner is not going to run over any of these running backs. He's not going to bully his way into the backfield.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I tend to agree with Mike. You're entitled to your
That's
wrong
why we have a
opinion.
show and we get pissed at each other.
We get to watch these games this weekend. We get to talk about them all week. We'll have Jay on the show tomorrow and answer your guys' mailbag questions. Thanks for tuning in. Until next time, keep pushing.
I did have the assignment right.